Continuing from the previous episode 2220. Well, we won. Looking at the shocking scene in the enchantment, little tears appeared on Xiao Yi Junmei's face, her nose flushed red, and the grief could not be stopped. In the altar barrier, Xiao Yan and Qianchen were still talking a few words, but at this time, everyone knew that this election contest was over. Second brother. Before there was any other action, Xiao Yi stepped out and instantly came to Xiao Yan's side in the enchantment. At this point, there is no need to continue. Furthermore, the elf princess has cultivated since childhood and learned noble culture and art. Although she is domineering and aggressive, she is very open to winning and losing. Hoo. Seeing Xiao Yi's arrival, Xiao Yan originally wanted to hold on for a while, but unfortunately, the intense feeling of weakness conveyed from his body made Xiao Yan's legs go soft and he lay directly on Xiao Yi's shoulders. Using so much power at one time, the load is really too great. Xiao Yan said with a grin, then lay on Xiao Yi's back. An extremely terrifying dry feeling appeared in the core of the battle, and even the power of *** was shaking in the body, and the 5 fingers that looked like bones were extremely terrible. I have to say, you are the strongest person I have ever met. If you really step into reincarnation, I can't be your opponent at all. I look forward to the day when you step into reincarnation. Qianchen swept away the aftermath of the energy all over her body, then shook her head and said, Xiao Yan is a genuine and powerful enemy, the strongest person she has ever encountered since ancient times. By the way, dare to ask the Princess of Qianchen what is the matter under the crown of the Tamil Dragon King. At the end, Xiao Yan spoke weakly. The 9 Dragon Kings are mighty and mighty, not because Xiao Yan covets the power of the storm, but wants to search for the traces of the Baxia Dragon King through the Tamil Dragon King. The power of the Storm Dragon King was obtained by chance when I was young. As for her trace, even I can't trace it. But she should have a deep connection with the Holy See or the Angel family. Princess Qianchen shook her head and retreated directly from the barrier. The competition is over, the 3 major tribes have completely disintegrated, and there is a clear candidate for the next king of the Fire Elves. Everyone, what other objections do you have? Watching the end of the farce in the field, the second elder Ma Lin stepped out, and the brown flames all over his body slanted out like a warm current, repairing this broken holy altar barrier, and the mighty voice shocked everyone present. This kind of power, just the terrifying coercion emanating from the invisible, makes people shudder, worthy of being the leader of the Fire Elves. Alice is here. Congratulations to young Master Yi. Qianchen also wishes to bless young Master Yi first. The second elder Ma Lin had just fallen, and the 2 princesses Alice and Qianchen bowed gracefully. Even though they had put down their prejudices, they said slowly, Congratulations, Mr. Yi. When the elven powerhouses who were watching behind them heard the words, they also bowed their hands one after another. Second elder, my second brother is seriously injured now. Let's take him to deal with it as soon as possible. I'm not in a hurry. Facing the support of so many powerful people, Xiao Yi did not feel any joy. Instead, she frowned and said to the second elder beside her, extremely urgent. This guy. Could it be that the life and death of a human is more important than the honorable status of the next king of the Fire Elves? The king of the Fire Elves, the generation is the most powerful person above the 5th level of reincarnation. In addition to controlling the entire elf family, it is enough to stand among the top ranks of the Great Thousand World. Countless people looked at Xiao Yi's appearance, and their hearts were already itching, but they didn't dare to make any unnecessary actions. Yep, Alice, Qianchen, Marvin, the 3 major tribes disintegrated. Inject your power into our Fire Elves, and we will resume the canonization ceremony in a few days. Second elder Ma Lin took Xiao Yan and Xiao Yi, turned them into a meteor, and flew towards the bottom of the elf altar. The Holy Spirit stands at the highest point, while the headquarters of the Fire Elf family resides at the bottom of the elf altar. This is the headquarters of our Fire Elves. Let me take you to the pharmacy. Yao Lao Gui has a lot of good herbs, which can speed up the healing of your injuries. Second elder Ma Lin walked slowly and led the 2 of them. Looking around, the so-called headquarters of the Fire Elf clan is located deep in the center of a prosperous forest. It is bright and full of life. The ground is covered with layers of strange spar-like agate. The forest is integrated with nature. Most of the buildings in the forest are extravagant, but more buildings are built on one by one. The center of the trees in the sky, above the branches. Green leaves, the breath of life, and indeed the word elves, are very harmonious. The ancient tree of life of the elves is also the true holy place among the elves. As the three walked like this, they soon came to a place deep in the forest, surrounded by brown flames. The whole body is round, and there are no trees and weeds within 100 meters. There is only an ancient tree with a height of 1,000 meters, standing in it. Above the ancient trees, lines like human bodies emerged, with some ancient and mysterious fluctuations. At this time, above the ancient trees, a series of exquisite wooden houses emerged, but at the feet of the ancient trees, it was strange. A trace of black marks appeared, and those black marks felt dizzy just by looking at them. Old Yao, open the door for me. Second Elder Ma Lin led the two of them with ease, and came to the top of the ancient tree of life, and knocked away the fourth wooden house from the top. This is the ancient tree of life, the place where elves have lived for generations. Cultivating and retreating here has the effect of getting twice the result with half the effort. And because of this ancient tree, the log house here has another mystery, because the log house is a separate space for us elves to live in. Xiao Yi explained, it turns out that there is such a good place. Xiao Yan nodded, facing the space here, even Xiao Yan quite liked it. By the way, second elder, what about the first elder and the patriarch, isn't it? While explaining to Xiao Yan, Xiao Yi suddenly remembered something, shook her head and said, then stared at second elder Ma Lin. According to past experience and records, every time the contest for electors will be led by the first elder. How come it is the second elder's turn this time? Could it be that there really are some other problems within the fire elves? Stop talking nonsense, let me recover from my injuries first. After all, you two guys have to work hard for a while. Don't be lazy. Being pointed out by Xiao Yi, the second elder Ma Lin smiled lightly, but there seemed to be malicious intentions in that smile. Second elder Ma Lin was not surprised by Xiao Yi's inquiry. After all, this guy is the next king of the Fire Elf clan. The seal of reincarnation and the power of holy flame are enough to know all the disasters that follow. But the next step is probably the real highlight of the Fire Elves. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL. Continuing from the previous episode 2221. I'm coming, second elder. You don't have to be so cruel every time. The wooden door of my space is expensive to build. How many times have you broken it? When Ma Lin's palm kept beating on the fourth wooden house above the ancient tree, an old voice came from it, with some dissatisfaction and resentment. Squeak. The wooden door has extremely mysterious patterns. If it is not clever, it may be extremely difficult to open. At this time, the wooden door is quietly opened by the figure inside. Didn't you go to preside over the electoral contest? Why are you free to come to my place? Pushing the door and walking out, the wooden door was filled with the power of space like a small vortex, and an elf who looked like a middle-aged human man walked out. This elf man looks very similar to a human, without extra angular, pointed ears, fluff, etc. If you don't look carefully, it is easy to think that he is a human. A guest is here. I'll give you a stick of incense time. Second elder Ma Lin's voice dropped coldly, and suddenly his body was gently moved away, revealing the two behind him. Senior Yao Lagui, this is my second brother. He was seriously injured in the competition. Could you please take a look? Xiao Yi looked anxious, hurriedly turned to reveal Xiao Yan's figure, and said, don't be so troublesome, let's deal with your affairs as soon as possible. I'm also relieved. Xiao Yan leaned on Xiao Yi and used his soul power to communicate. Shush, second brother. Yao Laogui is a well-known pharmacist in our fire elves. His medical skills are unparalleled in the world, and maybe he can get some benefits, right? Hey, Xiao Yi responded. After all, although the fire elves are tyrannical, they still have the vision of the door, so even if Xiao Yan possesses such a terrifying talent, the fire elves will not easily promise anything. It's just that Xiao Yan is his second brother. The second brother has come all the way to help him. Although he can't give his second brother anything, he can't let him go back empty-handed, right? Cough. Xiao Yi, you are joining your second brother to harm our fire elves. Before the conversation between Xiao Yan and Xiao Yi was over, Yao Laogui said with a smile on his face. Yao Laogui's voice fell. Xiao Yi and Xiao Yan looked at the old man in front of them with amazement. The soul power of the late Huayuan realm. Such an understated voice made Xiao Yan's body tremble like an electric shock, especially the spiritual palace in his body, which actually sent out an extremely violent heart palpitations and tremors. All right, hurry up, otherwise I'll be worried. Second Elder Ma Lin urged. Come in, two interesting little guys. After that, the fourth room of the ancient tree of life was closed, and everyone was also submerged in it, but the roots of the ancient tree of life had traces of black air seeping out. I am afraid that if it is not solved, there will be a terrible danger here. Tisk tisk, good guy. Although you have a tyrannical bodybuilding technique, you are clearly not afraid of death. The flesh and blood in the palm of your hand is blurred, and there are only 5 bones and fingers left. If you hold on for a while, even Da Luo Jingxian can't save you. Just walking into Yao Lao Gui's house, this guy put Xiao Yan down and looked at him carefully, looking at Xiao Yan as if he were studying some rare treasure. Especially Xiao Yan used the palm of his dragon claw. Senior, I have a lack of fighting qi in my body now, and my body is full of scars. If you continue like this. The corners of Xiao Yan's lips were pale, apparently unintentional. I'll give you a big repayment pill. Healing liquid. Listening to Xiao Yan's words, Yao Lao Gui tossed out pills containing strong power from the medicine cabinet on the side, and handed them to Xiao Yan regardless of whether there would be any other side effects. Tear it off. Seeing this, Xiao Yan recognized at a glance that these medicinal pills were at the lowest level of the 6th rank of immortal rank, and even the 8th rank of holy pills were mixed with so many pills. He immediately sat cross-legged and worked hard to absorb and refine them. This move made Second Elder Ma Lin sigh slightly. It is really one who dares to feed, one who dares to eat, and anyone else. I am afraid that no one dares to swallow and absorb the power of so many high-level medicinal pills at the same time like Xiao Yan. This guy, named Xiao Yan, defeated Alice and Qianchen in the competition and helped Xiao Yi get the title of king. Ma Lin sat on the wooden chair, looked at the old Yao Yao who was looking for medicine and Xiao Yan who was absorbing the medicine pill, and spoke calmly. Oh, if you lose, you will lose. Yao Laogui moved on his own as if he didn't hear him. By the way, Qianchen still has the power of origin left by the Storm Dragon King Tamil, and in the end, he lost to this guy. Second Elder Ma Lin continued. What the hell? Wait, Ma Lin, make it clear to me. Just a guy who hasn't stepped into reincarnation can beat their 2 princesses? The next moment, Yao Laogui came back to his senses, and immediately looked at Xiao Yan with his eyes closed and rested in shock. Exactly, and he not only has the existence of holy flames, but also has the smell of the exercises practiced by holy kings, so now the problems that plague our family, I'm afraid they need to work together to solve them. Ma Lin shook her head, as if she was extremely happy with Yao Laogui's appearance. No way. Gulu. Yao Laogui suddenly stopped the movements in his hands, and then his body instantly froze in midair, looking at Xiao Yan with extremely strange eyes. Are you as frightened as you see an evil ghost, or even a little excited? Taking advantage of this time, tell us everything about our fire elves. After all, we don't have much time, and we have to rely on the 2 of them for the next thing. The next moment, the smile on Ma Lin's face disappeared instantly. Obviously, when she talked about this issue, even with her strength, she felt a burst of heart palpitations. But that kind of thing can't be dealt with your 4th level strength. Even if the 2 of them have 2 holy flames, their strength is too weak. If this continues, they will only die. Yao Laogui shook his head and vetoed. Let's talk among the awakened powerhouses in the Fire Elves clan, with you and me being the strongest in combat. There should be hope in cooperating with the holy flames of the 2 of them. Otherwise, you also know that once that thing succeeds, all the powerhouses in the Holy Land retreat in our Fire Elves will. Ma Lin said in fear, and the cold light in her eyes appeared with murderous intent, which made the aura in this space agitated. All right, both of you, listen carefully. Are you curious why the Great Elder didn't come forward to preside over? Because today's Fire Elves have encountered an unprecedented catastrophe. After the First World War, our Fire Elves, led by the goddess Yaoji, cooperated with the Holy King of the Shao clan and others to stop the World War, and then the Fire Elves clan chief returned to the clan. Sickness passed away. Based on the great achievements of the Patriarch, we buried him in the center of the Elves Lair for future generations to worship and pray. It's a pity that we underestimated the power of the foreign evil clan. Although the Patriarch passed away, countless evil powers accumulated in his body. Those powers used evil methods to escape our detection. Evil thoughts took root in the lair. Late. Yao Lao Gui's voice was full of deep self-blame. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL. Continuing from the previous episode 2222. But the great power of the patriarch of the fire elves shouldn't be. After Xiao Yan heard this, his head sank, as if this scene was far beyond his control. In the long years to come, the fire elves have been slow to have a new patriarch because they lack the patriarch's token, but the countless powerhouses who entered the elves' lair for retreat showed no signs of awakening, and even used the clan's secret technique to call to no avail. The great elder had to lead by example and broke into the elf's lair alone, but found that the elf's lair had already become smoky, and even discovered the evil power in the patriarch's body, and controlled the evil-minded monster with his own power, and only made the elf's lair. Many of the powerhouses escaped the catastrophe. But because of this, the great elder is also deeply trapped in the elf's lair, using his body as a seal to suppress evil spirit monsters, but he himself is in a dilemma. Ma Lin continued, "What kind of strength is the great elder?" Xiao Yi was quiet for a while, then frowned and said suddenly, "The strength of the great elder has reached the peak of the quadruple reincarnation order." Yao Lao Gui replied, his voice was also full of seriousness. "The peak of reincarnation?" Xiao Yi was puzzled. The division of strength of the reincarnation level can only be known if you reach the reincarnation level. It is reasonable for you not to know. The division of the reincarnation level, each level is the quasi-reincarnation level, the reincarnation level, and the peak of the reincarnation level. The difference between each level seems to be very small, but the gap can be said to be very different. According to normal human beings, 3 first-level quasi-reincarnation levels equals 1 first-level reincarnation level equals 1/3 of the first-level reincarnation level peak. This is the most basic division, regardless of other factors such as strength, fighting chi, fighting skills, etc., but the reincarnation rank can jump out of this system except for a very small number of powerhouses who are strong, and most of the other powerhouses can only follow. Yao Lao the ghost explained to Xiao Yi and the two like a teacher. So the so-called reincarnation has so many levels. Xiao Yi and Xiao Yan said in relief at the same time. The reincarnation level is not only the absolute control of one's own strength, but also the perception of one's own reincarnation in several lifetimes. It is profound and mysterious about the laws of heaven and earth, and the perception and participation of creatures in the vast world. Second Elder Ma Lin said, "Obviously, the power of reincarnation cannot be explained with just a few words. By the way, if this time the things that have troubled our fire elves need to go deep into the elves' lair, what is the strength of the two seniors? This is the most concerned issue right now. I am the 4th level reincarnation level strength, the main attack, and Yao Laogui is the 3rd level reincarnation level peak strength, mainly cultivating the medicine soul. This time we will take the two of you to the elves' lair, hoping to use the holy flames on you too. The fire will help us completely solve the problems that plague our elves. In that case, there will be enough time for you to be canonized." The two looked at each other and said solemnly, "Two seniors, the reincarnation seal at the center of Xiao Yi's eyebrows is also rooted in the elf's lair? And holy flame?" At the moment when everyone was talking, Xiao Yan also replied smoothly as before, got up and asked. "There is indeed a holy flame in the elf's lair, but that holy flame consumed too much of its origin in the First World War. Now that we have passed the scene of the evil spirit monster, it is difficult for us to say what the situation is. I'm afraid you need to enter it and deal with the evil spirit monster." When Xiao Yan asked about this, Second Elder Ma Lin and Yao Laogui had extremely ugly expressions on their faces. Although the holy flame is extremely precious, compared with the elf lair of the huge fire elves, the latter is undoubtedly more important. "Second brother." Xiao Yi did not answer hastily, but stayed quietly beside Xiao Yan. A quadruple reincarnation rank and a triple reincarnation rank peak powerhouse are both troublesome, and even the 4th rank peak strength of the Great Elder can only be incarnated as a seal, which is enough to show that the strength of this evil mind monster is unfathomable. Xiao Yi was already very satisfied that she was able to risk such a risk to claim the status of the next king for herself. Xiao Yi is arrogant, so naturally she will not take the initiative to ask Xiao Yan, and the current situation is indeed not optimistic. You can give it a try. After all, as the masters of holy flames, it is our duty to eliminate evil forces. And no matter what, there are 2 seniors sitting here. Xiao Yan smiled and looked at the 2 seniors. The implication was very obvious. I really didn't see you wrong. Xiao Yi, your brother has made a lot of friends. If Xiao Yan's little friend helps us relieve this catastrophe on this trip, the entire Fire Elf family is willing to form an alliance with the Endless Fire Territory forever. The second elder Ma Lin was a little dazed because of Xiao Yan's lofty ambitions, and after a while, he looked at Xiao Yan with admiration in his eyes. Xiao Yan was able to defeat the 2 princesses with the strength of the first-level reincarnation. The talent and strength were appalling, but the elders and monsters of evil thoughts were not comparable to such princesses who had been in high positions for a long time. Whether it is strength or the power of decisive attack methods, they are far superior to the 2 princesses. It's a pity that although second elder Ma Lin sent someone to inquire about Xiao Yan's details, he didn't know that Xiao Yan was a member of the Xiao family, otherwise it would be a different look now. Now that you're ready, let's go, Xiao Yan said eagerly, with a bright light flashing in his eyes. The 2 of you are too weak, we are worried, so before entering, we need to do some preparations. Second elder Ma Lin suddenly looked at Yao Lao Gui who was beside him, with a playful look flashing in his eyes. Humph! Yao Laogui's face shook abruptly, and then his eyes kept rolling, and there were signs of leaving in a blink of an eye. What time is it? Are you still mother-in-law? Second elder Ma Lin said that he ruthlessly yelled at Yao Lao Guidao in front of the 2 juniors. You knew that you were blackmailing me. Yao Laogui was so drunk by second elder Ma Lin that he pouted his lips in dissatisfaction, and reluctantly pulled out 2 exquisite stone boxes from the back of the desk. Oh, what is this? When she saw these 2 stone boxes, the elf power in Xiao Yi suddenly became restless, as if she was desperate to devour the contents of the stone boxes. This is the elf seed. It can give the 2 of you temporary reincarnation level strength, although the duration is not long. It is enough to give you some survivability during this operation. Yao Laogui looked at the stone box and said with a painful expression. Hee, senior, such a good thing. Xiao Yi suddenly looked at Yao Laogui with a smile on her face, which made this guy have a bad feeling. Cut. This thing is something that can only be condensed by reincarnation powerhouses who consume the source of elves. Who would spend the source of energy to get this thing? Yao Laogui rolled his eyes. Now that you're ready, let's go. This matter belongs to our fire elves' top secret. Second elder Ma Lin looked at the 2 of them and urged them immediately. Go! Xiao Yi and Xiao Yan alone put away a stone box, and immediately, under the leadership of the 2 seniors, the 4 of them quietly came to the wooden house at the top of the ancient tree of life. The wooden house is quite small and looks very simple, but the whole space is filled with a thick atmosphere of vastness. An ancient land. At this moment, the Emperor Yan Ring, which had been silent for a long time in Xiao Yan's body, also quietly became restless. That feeling is as eager as seeing his long-lost lover. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL. Continuing from the previous episode 2223. In the top floor wooden house of the ancient tree of life, there is nothing fancy, just a mysterious door of light standing in the center. Spirit seal. Break. Inside the first wooden house of the ancient tree of life, surrounded by the edge of the ancient formation in the center, the second elder of Marlin moved, and the brown flames carried an ancient aura and swept out, instantly pouring into the ancient door of light. Among Wong buzzing, the door of light is like a formation that releases a touch of ancient fluctuations, easily wrapping the 4 bodies, pouring into it, and heading towards the Elf's Lair. The wooden house on the top floor of the ancient tree of life is a space passage, and the 4 people pass it to the Elf's Lair, but it is only a 10th time. Is this the Elf's Lair? After taking their breaths, the 4 entered the Elf's Lair, and looked at this special void. Xiao Yan hesitated. This is a forest. In preparation, it is a combination of a forest and an altar. The forest is shaped like a bird's nest, and there are countless mysterious atmospheres outside the large and small nests. Looking into the distance, he vaguely swept across this majestic forest lair. A wave of extremely tyrannical and terrifying power was transmitted from those forest lair. Obviously, the fire elves can stand in the big thousand world. It makes sense, after all, the breath contained in dozens of nests, big and small, is actually all reincarnation? This kind of terrifying formation is enough to make countless forces only look up. But for this scene, Xiaoyan's keen soul power noticed that deep in the center of the forest, there was a huge cave that had collapsed. All the demons are trying to devour all the energy here. In the forest, there is a stream of light outside the nest, and from time to time there are sounds of humming energy, but in any case, it seems that it is difficult to leave after entering here. Although the evil spirit monster was stopped by the elders, it was difficult for the evil power to penetrate, but the Elf Lair became a place that could only be entered but not out, which also led us to be so eager to obliterate that evil spirit monster. After all, the Elf Lair, among the many powerhouses in retreat, all of them are the mainstay of our fire elves. Although the lair can protect them from evil monsters, once the elder has any accident, the eternal foundation of our fire elves will be destroyed in one fell swoop. Second Elder Ma Lin looked at Xiaoyan's puzzled face and explained with a very heavy expression. Let's go, just ahead. Yao Laogui released his soul power, constantly vigilant against the terrifying power around him. This is the statue of goddess Yaoji. Not long after, the four of them came to a wide field in the center of the elf's lair. Xiao Yi looked at the stone statue in the distance and couldn't help but growl. Even when she was watching, the reincarnation mark between her eyebrows exuded an extremely hot volatility. Wait, that is? Holy flame fire? Following Xiao Yi's astonished voice, Xiao Yan was surprised when he saw the stone eyes of Yao Ji's statue. Above the statue of Yao Ji, in the stone eyes, a group of purple flames jumped cheerfully like an elves born from nature. That aura was undoubtedly holy flames. The quiet and closed-eyed old man in front of the Yao Ji statue should be the so-called Great Elder, right? As for the noble golden coffin, I'm afraid it belonged to the previous elf patriarch. Xiao Yan moved his gaze away, but saw a middle-aged woman with a graceful complexion, her body wrapped in two groups of breaths, sitting quietly cross-legged. This woman is wearing a gray dress, and the skirt is even inlaid with countless brown flame gold threads. On the looming skin and the chalk finger, the exquisite flame patterns bloom with suffocating and tyrannical coercion. It's just that in front of him, a golden coffin stands quietly. There are many dark lines on the golden light. Those evil forces are obviously transmitted from the golden coffin. Elder, Eliza, Second Elder Ma Lin's beautiful eyes were filled with an extremely serious look, and she said, in the elf family, the origin of the name can be inherited from the royal family of the father, or it can choose to learn from humans, so the name has two forms of noise. Xiao Yi explained in a deep voice. Stay back a little bit, here is 100 meters surrounded by the Great Elder's formation, in order to prevent the power of evil spirit monsters from overflowing and spreading. At the moment when the two were talking, Yao Laogui, who had a keen sense of smell, reached out to stop the three, and his voice became strange. Okay. Listening to Yao Laogui's voice, the three of them retreated at the same time. After all, at this time, there must be no mistakes, otherwise the last chance will be in vain. Whoa! At the same time, it seemed to be affected by the breath of the four people. Inside the wide field, above the body of the Great Elder, the eyelids were tightly closed, and a black halo appeared on the left eyelid. Wong buzzing. When that cloud of black aura emerged, Xiao Yan and Xiao Yi's bodies trembled uncontrollably. A huge pressure of hundreds of thousands of kilograms suppressed their auras and became disordered. Btth. Seeing this scene, the Second Elder Ma Lin waved casually, and the dazzling brown flame entangled both of them at the same time, and only then did the situation of the two be resolved. So strong. Xiao Yi and Xiao Yan looked at each other, and immediately purple flames and amber flames surfaced on the surface of their bodies, and the stone box containing the elf seeds also held hands tightly. Now, what should we do? After being silent for a long time, Xiao Yan asked with a frown. Later, we will join forces to awaken this evil spirit monster together through the power of the formation, but we can't take care of you at that time. The holy flame should not be exposed too early, otherwise it will scare this guy away. After we succeed, you will lend us the holy flame and let us launch a fatal blow. The two looked at each other. There was an extremely rare solemn meaning in their voices. Okay, let's do it. The voice fell, and the temperature in this elf's lair suddenly rose a lot. The bodies of Second Elder Ma Lin and Yao Laogui lifted off at the same time, and the ancient and vast fluctuations tilted out like a tide. Yao Ji's flame. On the body of the Second Elder Ma Lin, purple flames like crystal treasures rose up, Although the power of the flames is not as strong as the purple flames in Xiaoyi's reincarnation seal, it also has the spirit of a holy flame. Its terrifying power of reincarnation has a divine aura that can purify all things. The flame of the soul. Yao Laogui roared, a blue flame on his chest, like a cold core that had been silent for 10,000 years, blooming alone, just released. Xiao Yan and Xiao Yi, who were hiding in the dark, shook violently and instantly solidified. What a terrifying coercion. Xiao Yan and the two were afraid for a while. If the fluctuation of this level of battle were affected at all, I am afraid that the two of them would be turned into nothing in an instant. Watching the two attacking unfold, the corner of Eliza's eyes, who had always been quiet, was slowly touched. Like an ancient queen who has been dormant for countless years, she is about to wake up, and she is about to tilt her anger. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL. Continuing from the previous episode 2224. Boom! The scorching purple flame and blue flame, like two flaming blades capable of opening up the world, stood majestically in front of the two of them. What a powerful offensive! Xiao Yi and Xiao Yan hid behind an ancient tree. When their eyes were fixed on their bodies, the void beneath their feet suddenly twisted. Get heavy. The power of the Great Elder's formation cannot be underestimated. Xiao Yi said, this kind of formation is probably condensed from hundreds of thousands of formation patterns. Although it is not a battle formation master's technique, it is displayed only by the formation scroll, but it is extremely terrifying. Xiao Yan's eyes became extremely cold. Let's do it! The monstrous offensive condensed by the two flames swept down like an angry thunder that soared for 9 days, with unparalleled terrifying fluctuations, directly hitting the edge of the formation. At that time, the formation was so provocatively provoked, and endless strange auras slanted out. Those powers were like transparent and illusory, spreading for hundreds of meters, wrapping the Yaoji statue and the position of the Great Elder, but the two flames the attack fell, but there were no energy ripples. I saw a humming sound in the original transparent formation, and the gray energy spread out without warning. It was like a desolate source that corrodes all things. Wherever he went, it turned out to be ashes, and even the flames involved in the two reincarnation forces dimmed in an instant, and disappeared without a trace after a while. Crack! After the blink of an eye, the two flames did not cause any disturbance, and were swallowed up by the gray wasteland. In the entire vast void, one after another dead gray desolate source spread out, and the bursts of roars seemed shocking. Suddenly, above the golden coffin, a jet-black beam of light suddenly condensed out, and immediately shot out from above the golden coffin at a speed invisible to the naked eye, trying to break through the shackles of the formation and escape from here. Whoa! For a time, the entire space of the nest was shrouded by the formation, the wind was blowing, and countless wild beasts from the ancient times roared and reverberated in the nest. The power of the waste? Seeing that the two men's joint attack was actually swallowed up by this gray energy, the two explained invariably and said, their bodies were several meters away from the edge of the formation. Even when he saw that the strange black pillar was actually destroyed by this formation, the core inscription of divine movement in Xiao Yan's body became squirming. The real waste is an ancient divine beast, a peerless beast that is comparable to the three gods, and its strength has already entered the realm of the source. How is it possible? Second Elder Ma Lin stared at the scene in front of her with her beautiful eyes. She couldn't believe it. As the second elder, she is very aware of the terrifying power of the formation in front of her, but according to the records in the clan, it seems that this formation has never had such terrifying power. This is the power of the formation. The power of this formation is not bad. In my opinion, I am afraid that when the Great Elder used it, he should have deliberately added a trace of the origin of the ancient desolate beast. The power of this formation is stronger than that of the previous formation. Wei is too domineering. Xiao Yan hurriedly spread his voice out and asked the two to do a lot of defense. Could it be that this is the formation left by the goddess Yaoji, the ancient formation of the wilderness? Yao Laogui didn't attack rashly, but kept looking at the space below, on the wood strips on the edge of the nest, where there were shadows of obscure wild beasts. It seems that this land is filled with a rare dead gray color, and this strange dead gray color makes them extremely uncomfortable. But in the same way, with the existence of the power of the formation, those evil auras cannot completely leave here. No, This formation should be set up by the Great Elder in order to prevent evil spirit monsters from leaving here rashly and harming my elves. Regardless of the enemy or me, once a shot is made, it will stop the attacker. But in order to completely solve the scourge, we can only crack the formation first. The two shook their heads, and for a while they had no choice but to bite the bullet. Two seniors, the power of the formation can be broken without brute force. It is different from the power of the soul, so let me try it. Just when the two looked solemn, the power of reincarnation in their bodies was running to the limit, and when they were about to suppress the formation with brute force, Xiao Yan took a step forward and came to the two of them. A battle formation master? But your formation pattern skills are only about 100,000. This ancient deserted source formation has a terrifying existence of 200,000 to 300,000 patterns. I'm worried that you will not be able to bear it. Seeing Xiao Yan's brave figure, Second Elder Ma Lin was extremely pleased, but after thinking about it, such a move was extremely inappropriate, so he hesitated. Don't worry, I trust this guy. You control and decipher this formation, and we will share the rest of the power for you, but remember, don't force it. The power of the pattern is different from the power of the soul. Once it is broken, I am afraid no one can save you. And the power of this ancient desolate formation is desolate. Once it is contaminated, I am afraid that even us will be extremely concerned. You have to be careful. Yao Laogui said with a solemn expression, no jokes can be made at this time. Okay, Xiao Yan readily agreed, but he was overjoyed. I was worried that I didn't have this level of formation, but I didn't expect to encounter it. Wang buzzing, Xiao Yan closed his eyes and rested his mind. The core inscription of the divine movement in his body and the Nigung pills worked together, and the majestic spiritual power emerged like a river, easily entwining around the edge of the formation. Is it really useful? In order to prevent the evil spirit monsters from running away, Second Elder Ma Lin and Yao Laogui joined hands to seal the lair in Zaidu, and just now stared at Xiao Yan carefully. Bring it on. When the power of the array pattern reached its limit, Xiao Yan's eyes flashed with rare madness, and he immediately controlled these powers and stepped into the range of the ancient deserted formation. Btth2. Under the inclination of Xiao Yan's fighting formation master's power, the power in the entire nest instantly quieted down, as if time and space had stopped. Under such an unusually cold silence, everyone saw that the extremely terrifying gray desolate source was slowly injected into Xiao Yan's body under Xiao Yan's control. He is absorbing the power of the wasteland? Can't you find death? At this moment, Rao Yi Yao Laogui's calm expression couldn't help but roar. Hoo, let's live up to expectations, the main event is next. Xiao Yan opened his eyes, and the two elders could clearly feel that an invisible ancient desolation was spreading from Xiao Yan's body. That kind of aura actually made them both feel a long-lost heart palpitation. At the same time, the luxuriant forests, trees, and even the soil and rocks in the entire nest turned dull and ashes in a rotten and withered appearance. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL.